my beautiful earthlings, and welcome once again to another new episode of Makeup and Wrestling, the weekly show here on my channel where I do my makeup and I discuss the newest episode of AEW Dynamite. So let's just jump right into the video. For my eyeshadow look this week, I'll be using the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Alien Palette. Our show this week began with a tag team match between the Young Bucks and TH2. As you guys may already know if you've seen my previous video, I do not like TH2. They wrestle with absolutely no passion and they commit the biggest crime of all, in my opinion, as wrestlers, and that is not selling any moves. I assume that if you're already watching this video, then you're somewhat familiar with how the sport of professional wrestling works. The results are predetermined to benefit a storyline that will elevate the athletes. And the way the stories are told in wrestling are obviously through promos and speaking, and especially through the physical act of wrestling. And one of the worst things that you could do to diminish not only the credibility of your opponent, but yourself, is not to sell their moves. And that is the thing that I absolutely fucking hate about TH2. They do not sell for shit at all, and they made the Young Bucks look like shit last night. They always make themselves as a tag team look like shit, but they made the Bucks look like shit, and that really pissed me off because, as I've stated before, I'm not too keen on the whole super high flying, I'm just gonna do a million fucking cool ass moves right after the other type of wrestling, because I feel like it really takes away from the moves that are being performed, because since there's so many amazing crazy moves being performed back to back, the fans' expectations becomes higher and higher and higher. Therefore, after a while, you just get bored. But I feel like the Young Bucks have kind of found the balance in between. They're probably some of the best examples of how that type of style can be done correctly, because they do sell their opponent's moves and they do take time and pauses in between to really tell the story physically. But TH2 don't do any of that. And watching this match was painful because the Young Bucks were really trying to make the Acclaimed look like, not the Acclaimed, but we're gonna get into the Acclaimed, but they were trying to make TH2 look like credible opponents and like there was actually something at stake. But TH2, literally both Jack Evans and Angelico, every time one of the Bucks would deliver a move with a lot of impact, they would stand there for like a second and then get up and walk around like nothing is wrong. And that really pissed me off. It shouldn't happen. So during the match, one of the Young Bucks threw, I don't know if it was Angelico or Jack Evans, on top of the Acclaim, which were sitting front row outside of the ring, and I thought that was hilarious. Luckily, this awful match did not last for a long time, and then the Young Bucks, thank God, won, so I don't have to see this match again next week. But the Acclaim thought they were being clever, and they tried to attack the Young Bucks from behind, but then SCU came out to save the day. This match was so painful to get through. Oh my God, it felt like it went on for eternity. Fuck TH2, they are awful. I'm so sorry, and I feel so bad for the Bucks because they did their best to try and make them look like credible opponents, but they are just not on the Young Bucks level. Like, that match should have never happened, period. Next, we had a quick little promo from my lovely MJF, and he was just saying how he was gonna kick Orange Cassidy's ass, and that was pretty much it. And then immediately after his promo, we saw a vignette of Darby Allin. You guys know I don't really fuck with Darby Allin, but I will give the man that. He has some of the most creative vignettes out right now, and I do really enjoy seeing them for the most part. This week, Darby was in what appeared to be like a therapist's office, and he was taking a Rorschach test. I thought it was extremely clever how each one of the ink blot images appeared to resemble a wrestler. So first we saw the first ink blot, which was what appeared to be Powerhouse Hobbs, and he commented on that. The next one was Ricky Starks, then we have Brian Cage. But the final one, which I was most interested in what he had to say, was a ink blot that resembled Sting. And all he really did was chuckle, and then we cut to black. So I was just like, okay, you got something to say about all these motherfuckers, but not Sting? Like, I thought he would have some sort of a comment, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see what Darby thinks of Sting. Following that, we had Cody Rhodes come out to the ring to be interviewed by Tony Schiavone. Once Cody got in the ring, the first thing that Tony asked him was how did he feel about Sting coming out last week and surprising everyone here at AEW. And before Cody even had a chance to answer the question, the lights went out and Sting's music started playing and our boy Sting came out to the ring. And we basically had like 2 minutes of just everybody losing their shit once again over Sting. And again, I understand that this is a big deal, but come on guys, calm down and let the man speak. The first thing that he did once he got in the ring was hug Tony Schiavone, tell him how much he missed him. He asked him to shout, "Sting!" and all that good shit for him. They had a little bromance moment, you know, all that good stuff. And then Arn Anderson proceeded to approach Sting, and he was like, I just had to get close to make sure this is real. And basically all these guys were creaming themselves over Sting. And again, I understand the nostalgia. This is a big deal seeing Sting after all this time come back to TNT. So it was a little bit of a homecoming to an extent. And then we had our boy Corny Cody. I'm gonna call you Corny Cody because this moment was already corny as fuck since everybody was already creaming themselves over Sting and, oh my god, we love you, we miss you. Okay, we get it. Like, why the fuck are you here? Like, come on, I don't got that much time. So Cody then started saying how he's always dreamed of sharing a ring with Sting, and then Sting interrupted him and he said that he's signed a 6-year deal with AEW and that he's here to stay for a very long time. And he said that he's not here for Cody and he'll get to Cody when he fucking feels like it. However, he did then point out into the crowd and say that he sees a lot of himself in Darby Allin, which people have been saying since fucking last week. And he's basically confirming what we've all been thinking and saying, that he's gonna end up playing a mentor figure to Darby Allin. And then that was it. Him and Cody shared a hug and cut to commercial. And I was like, what the fuck? You guys hyped up this whole Sting's coming back bullshit so hard. Only for this to happen, just a bunch of old guys hugging. Okay. I don't see what's so exciting about that. But if it excited any of you, great. But it didn't excite me. Next, we saw a small promo of Team Taz talking shit about Cody as always. And this time, Taz's TikToker son Hook. Well, he's not a TikToker, but to me, he looks like one. He was with them and they made an announcement that now he's no longer training with Cody and he's training under Team Taz. And boy, he was trying to look as tough as possible. Bless his heart, but he just does not look intimidating at all to me. Like, I'm just waiting for him to do a little TikTok dance and get it over with, but but anyways, we'll see what happens with that. I'm just so over this feud between like Team Taz and Cody. It's getting really fucking old, and when the fuck is it gonna end? Are we gonna have a real conclusion? Cause this ain't it, chief. Following that, we had yet another tag team match, and this time it was between the Varsity Blondes, which consist of Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, versus FTR, which consists of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. And as always, they were accompanied by Tully Blanchard. This tag team match right here, baby, made me so happy because it was an actual fucking competitive match. And the Varsity Blondes are actually good, and they made both themselves and FTR look really great. Yes, FTR did dominate most of the match. However, the Varsity Blondes, they sold, and it was beautiful. I thought it was a pretty good match, one of the better tag team matches of the night, but I wouldn't say it was the best tag team match of the night. Of course, FTR picked up the victory, which I was happy to see because so far they haven't had any losses at all except for their title loss at Full Gear. So I'm very excited for a rematch between them and the Young Bucks. And I know when the rematch does eventually happen, they're gonna top the match that they had at Full Gear even more. And personally, I am hoping that eventually we get FTR once again as champ. We then saw Hangman Page being interviewed by Alex Marvez, and Alex actually announced that there will be a match between Private Party and Matt Hardy versus Hangman Page and two partners of his choosing. The main thing Alex was curious about was who were going to be Hangman Page's partners. And before Hangman Page could even answer or think about who he would ask to join him in facing Private Party and Matt Hardy, we had John Silver and Alex Reynolds pop out of nowhere behind them. And they were hilarious First of all, Hangman asked them how long they've been there, and both of them were like, yeah, 7 days, close to a week. We've just been hanging out here behind this fucking random ass bar. And they had some funny banter between them, and basically they asked if they could be Hangman's partner since he doesn't have anybody, and Hangman agreed. However, he said that he does not want them to think that this will mean that he is finally joining the Dark Order or anything like that, and that this is just a one-time deal. I really enjoy John Silver. As I said a couple episodes ago, he is very entertaining, and I think he can have a great singles career eventually down the line. He's very hilarious, he has a lot of charisma, and he's very fun to watch in the ring. Alex Reynolds, I don't know how I feel about him yet. However, I do really enjoy the chemistry that they have, and I'm interested to see where the storyline with Hangman and the Dark Order is going to go. Once again, I do not want Hangman to join them, and I'm glad that it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but this is definitely going to go somewhere. And what's going to happen, I don't know, but I'm going to keep watching. Our next match was between Dustin Rhodes and 10 from the Dark Order. Now, this match was boring. It was short and it was boring. It had nothing to do with Dustin. He did great. 10 was decent, but it wasn't an interesting match. I wasn't invested. I didn't give a shit. And it ended just as quickly as it started. Now, as soon as the match was over, Evil Uno proceeded to come out and speak to Dustin. And he started off by saying that even though Dustin can't change his past, he can certainly change his future. And basically offered him a membership to the Dark Order. And just when it seemed like maybe Dustin was gonna accept, even though we all know he wasn't, he then bitch slapped Evil Uno. And that motherfucker went down like a ton of bricks. And afterwards, he got out of the ring and he said that Dustin is eventually going to regret this and he will be begging to join the Dark Order. Y'all, this is getting ridiculous. Does Dark Order think that every single person on the roster needs to be a part of them? I just think it's kind of odd that they're asking basically anybody who would listen at this point. I don't see a single reason why Dustin would want to join the Dark Order. Evil Uno was kind of speaking to him as though, oh, well, maybe you're feeling underappreciated in the Nightmare family or you're not important. Like, Evil Uno, we all know Dustin is old as fuck. Like, let him do his thing and leave him alone. Next, we had an interview which I was completely unprepared for, and it just did not make any sense to me. We had Mr. Tony Schiavone interview Brandy Rhodes, whose arm is still in a sling since it was broken by Jade Cargill a few weeks ago. And the other person that joined them for this interview today was Shaquille O'Neal, which I was like, the fuck is Shaq doing there? I just don't understand why he was brought up initially a couple weeks back when Jade made her debut and she cut that promo on Cody. And Shaq is not a wrestler. Like, he's not. So what the fuck does he have to do with this? Like, is he dating Jade? Does he know her? Is that his cousin, his daughter? I am completely unaware. No one has really established this for me to give a shit yet. This wasn't much of an interview since Tony Schiavone appeared to be more of a moderator between Shaq and Brandy more than anything else. Shaq began by first apologizing to Brandy for what Jade did to her arm, and he did think that what she did was completely uncalled for because there's never a good reason for you to just up and break somebody's arm. Like, let's be honest. And Brandy made it known that when she heals up, she's gonna kick Jade's ass and all that good shit. And Shaq announced that he will join Jade at her rematch against Brandy whenever the fuck her arm heals. And that was pretty much it. Until the end when Brandy and Shaq, they were just like, all right, you good, we cool, no problem between us. You know, me and Jade have her own thing. Shaq, you're not involved, no hard feelings. But then as Brandy was leaving, Shaq told Brandy like, hey, maybe you should go home, you know, rest up, prepare for that match. Because, you know, Jade's pretty good. And you know what will do you some good? Watching some of her matches because you can learn a thing or two from her. And Brandy... Miss Brandy, she was pissed. Like, she turned around and looked at Shaq like he fucking snatched her cookie. She got in his face and she was like, you know what? I I'm sick of you, you large, overgrown asshole. And she grabbed a glass of water and threw it right in Shaq's face. And I was just like, damn, okay. So this is like, what, the second time that we've seen Brandy show any emotion or character? I was a little shook, to be honest, because I haven't seen Brandy this worked up since Jade called, you know, Cody some unpleasant things a couple of weeks back. And once again, I don't really have the slightest idea of what Brandy's character is overall, but this sassy bitch that takes no bullshit, I fucks with her, and I hope we see her a little more often. And now we were finally being joined by the presence of the inner circle so we can find out what the fuck is going to happen to them as a group. So Chris began by basically kind of summing up what's been going on the last couple of weeks and how everybody's been feeling. And everybody was present except for Santana, who apparently is so pissed at every single one of them that he didn't give a fuck enough to show up tonight because shit was just not gonna go well. Now, once Jericho said his piece, of course, MJF grabbed the mic and he was next to speak. Now, before we break down what MJF said, what the fuck was going on with MJF's hands tonight? Like, I'm gonna put a little picture right here because this is ridiculous. What kind of Oompa Loompa situation were we having? Y'all know I love MJF, but I don't know who he was applying fake tanner to, because it certainly wasn't himself, because he didn't look that tan tonight, but his hands were orange. Like, honey, do you know that you're supposed to apply some like lotion to your hands, knees, and elbows when you're putting on fake tanner? Because otherwise those parts are gonna fake and bake the most and you're gonna look crazy. Clearly nobody told him that. And not only that, he had like a little bit of blood right here or something. Like, did you cut yourself with a razor? Like, were you looking in the mirror when you were shaving today? Like, I was just very confused. Clearly we got ready in the dark because that's not how we usually look. So that was so distracting to the point where I actually had to rewind what he had to say initially because I couldn't stop looking at that orange monstrosity. But he basically reiterated what we've all known for weeks, and that is that Wardlow and MJF are the main problem of the inner circle and the main cause of their issues. And he said that he does not want to be the cause of that because he willingly joined the inner circle because he knew the benefits that it would bring him and he wanted the camaraderie and support from the inner circle. So why would he ever join them if he wanted to break them up? Then Sammy got in his face because he's like, motherfucker, I know you're trying to break us up. We all saw you go in last week with the towel. And MJF retorted and he said like, yo, you know that's not what I was trying to do. And Jericho got up in his face and he's like, look, we're not stupid. We saw what you tried to do, so what the fuck? And of course, MJF didn't have much of an excuse or anything to say. So then Ortiz basically became the peacemaker. He spoke to Sammy. He's like, look, we know his bullshit. We know what kind of motherfucker he is, but sometimes you don't get to choose your family, and we don't always like our family. So that being said, you know what kind of piece of shit basically MJF is. So you need to be the bigger man because you're better than him and you know it. And then MJF looked at Ortiz like, did you just use my catchphrase to say that Sammy is better than me? Like, the fuck? But then Sammy for once appeared to actually be level-headed and agreed with Santana and shook MJF's hand. And then afterwards, he got up both in Jericho and MJF's face and he said that if something shady like this ever happens again, then he's leaving the inner circle for good. And I was just like, okay, I would like to see what you would do without the inner circle because right now I had no idea. But it was very ballsy of him to make such a statement. I was just like, okay, Sammy's wearing his big boy pants today. Everything then seemed fine and dandy and we thought everybody was just gonna walk off from the ring. But then Jake Hagar was like, I have a problem. We haven't addressed all our issues yet. Like, hold the fuck up. Why the fuck has this fool, talking about Wardlow, been staring at me since day one? Like, what the fuck does he want? And then Wardlow grabbed the mic and he was like, why the fuck were you staring at me? You need to fucking stop staring at me. And just when they were about to both pop off on each other, Jericho was like, can we agree that y'all motherfuckers are gonna stop staring at each other and we're all gonna be happy? And then we did the inner circle salute and that was that. Was I a little disappointed? Yeah. Because I was expecting something a little bit more climactic, but I'll take it. I guess I was wrong. Next we had Alex Marvez interviewing FTR, and FTR basically reiterated that they will get the titles back because right now they're basically the #1 tag team, so Young Bucks, y'all better watch out. We then had our next match of the night, which was a 6-man tag featuring the Lucha Bros and the Murder Hawk Monster Lance Archer facing off against Butcher and Blade and Eddie Kingston. In my opinion, this was the best tag team match of the night. It was very fun to watch and it was highly physical. The Butcher, the Blade, and Eddie Kingston clearly had a very good strategy right off from the get-go, because as soon as Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros approached the ring, they attacked them right then and there, and they really roughed them up before the match could even start. And probably what hurt them the most was Penta getting put through a table, and he was gone for the rest of the match. And that immediately right there definitely changed the landscape. So once the match started, it was only Lance Archer and Rey Fenix facing off against Butcher, Blade, and Eddie. But at one point, Rey also got kind of eliminated, and it just ended up being Lance Archer against both Butcher and Blade. From there on, you can kind of make your own conclusion, but basically Eddie, Butcher, and Blade won the match. And once the match was over, Lance Archer was pissed as fuck, because he doesn't like to fucking lose. I mean, who does? He fucked all them motherfuckers up as soon as the match was done. Like, somebody had to take his anger out, and who better to do it than on the motherfuckers that screwed you over. After the match, we were taken backstage to see Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose again fucking somebody up, and this time it was Red Velvet. And honey, she was getting her ass handed to her real bad. Like, ooh, I felt bad for that girl. And Vicky's just standing there laughing at her. But luckily, before she could get her arm broken the way Brandy had hers, Big Swole and Serena Deeb come to the rescue, and they start trying to swing at Nyla, Jade, and then all of a sudden Ivelisse and Diamante come behind them and they start fucking them up. So it just ended up being absolute madness, and a bunch of referees and security had to break up all these women. Clearly AEW decided to cram all the women appearances within one 10-minute time frame, or actually less, because then we had Abaddon face off against Tesha Price, which, I don't know who you are, honey, good for you, but you made Abaddon look great, because it was a squash match through and through. It lasted maybe like 2 minutes, and then Abaddon hit the Widow's Peak on Tasha, and it was a 1, 2, 3 over. And just because the match was done did not mean our girl Abaddon was done, because she was ready to fuck Tasha up some more. And just before she could really do some further damage, Hikaru Shida comes out with a kendo stick and proceeds to save Tasha by smacking the shit out of Abaddon in the face with that stick. Finally showing us that she ain't scared of her, even though Abaddon is creepy and weird. She ain't scared, and she's gonna retain her title, even though I don't want her to. Now, do I want her to lose it to Abaddon? No. We all know who needs to be the next champ. Miss Thunder Rosa needs to be the champ, okay? So I ain't gonna be happy until I see her holding that title. Then we cut to a backstage interview with Dasha Gonzalez and the Inner Circle. I forgot what Dasha asked them, y'all, but Jericho basically said that the Inner Circle is going to stay and remain as strong as possible, and to show their solidarity, they will be joining MJF at his match against Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond. And as soon as he said that, I was like giving him the side eye, like, are you gonna be helping him, or are you gonna fuck him over? Because he tried to fuck you over last week, like. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I was intrigued, to say the least. Earlier in the night, it was announced that Don Callis and Kenny Omega will be addressing what exactly happened at the main event against Jon Moxley last week, which I personally thought was very repetitive since they did that the previous night on Impact. I did end up watching Don Callis and Kenny Omega on Impact, so I will be breaking down what happened on Impact versus what happened on AEW. Now, on Impact, I personally thought the segment was done a lot better. The episode of Impact Wrestling actually began with footage of what happened at the end of the championship match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley last week. And then about a third of the way through the episode, we saw a paid advertisement for AEW featuring Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone. It looked a little kind of 80s, or at least the background that they had behind them. And Tony spoke to Don Callis and the Impact audience. He mentioned a couple of the rumors that were stating that he might possibly be purchasing Impact Wrestling, and he also stated his disappointment at the way the championship match with Jon Moxley ended. I thought it was pretty clever and kind of funny, and he definitely insinuated that Impact Wrestling is poor and that they need his money. I had also never heard Tony Khan speak before, so to me this was a little bit of a culture shock, but I thought he did a pretty good job with this little commercial segment. I thought it was very clever. We actually didn't hear anything from Don Callis and Kenny Omega until the very end of Impact Wrestling. Kenny and Don appeared to be on a tour bus, and they were interviewed by Josh Matthews. So the interview began with them casually changing the nameplate on the championship, and Josh asked them what happened and how long they've had this plan. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are you guys just gonna do this all of a sudden? And Don Callis, to sum up what he said in the shortest way possible, he told the story that he was actually trained by the Golden Sheik, which we then found out was actually Kenny Omega's uncle, and he first met Kenny Omega when he was 10 years old. And Don said that this whole situation has been 27 years in the making, and that he promised Kenny's uncle that he would look out for Kenny as though he was one of his own, because he also did appreciate what the Golden Sheik did for him when he was training Don as a professional wrestler. Which then answered a lot of my questions, because I do think Don Callis is pretty gifted on the mic. I had never heard him or heard of him, to be honest, until he appeared on AEW to call a few of Kenny's matches, and then of course him speaking now. So the man can talk, and I was very enthralled and entertained by what he had to say. And he hyped Kenny up, talked about all his accomplishments and how he's the best of the best. And then Kenny joined in, and he said that he wants to have a little fun with the title, and he basically insinuated that he's also going to shoot his shot and try to become the Impact Wrestling champion, or basically any world champion for that matter. His goal was to just go around every promotion now and collect titles. I really enjoyed what Don and Kenny had to say on Impact. I found them very entertaining. It was a great way to close off their show with the thing that people were probably most interested in seeing that night. Them on Dynamite, on the other hand, was a whole nother story. So we began by seeing Kenny and Don get off a fucking helicopter, which, like, okay, damn. And Alex Marvez, of course, our boy's always working overtime, was trying to chase them once again, also getting in his cardio, and asking them questions, and they refused to answer or talk to him, and they kind of made fun of him, which I was like, leave that man alone. He's the hardest person working here tonight, because he is out here interviewing everybody. Now, once they got to the ring, we had Kenny's long, convoluted entrance, and this time, instead of 2 broom bitches, we had 4 broom bitches. I guess once you're the champion, you have a bigger budget for more brooms and more bitches. But once they got into the ring and they started talking, it was once again Don speaking more, but this time he basically contradicted every single thing he said the night before. On Dynamite, he stated that this has been in the works for over a year, when on Impact he said that this whole situation has been in the works for over 27 years. So which one is it, motherfucker? It just didn't really make sense, and they didn't really add or say much of anything. He hyped Kenny up once again, but he didn't really mention any of his accomplishments, and he didn't really explain why him and Kenny have a connection together and why he's there for him. So it just didn't make sense. And then Kenny got on the mic and he said that yes, there was the gentleman's agreement, but it was just a performance and he had to do what he had to do, which contradicted what he said on Impact. Because on Impact, he said that the reason why he didn't abide by the gentleman's agreement is because Moxley hit Callis in the face. And to Kenny, that was like him slapping his dad. That's how I feel about that. Like, really? This was so stupid in my opinion. Pick a story and stick to it, my dude. Pick a story and stick to it. Is this basically going to happen every other week? They're just going to go on different promotions and go back and forth and contradict themselves, because I don't find that interesting and I don't find there to be any continuity. I think it's a lot better if they would have just aired the footage that appeared on Impact Wrestling tonight on Dynamite instead of doing this bullshit. It was a totally useless appearance by both of them and it didn't add anything to the story. It's just a pointless ass segment. Could have been cut from the night. We could have had another fucking match. Anything better could have fucking happened. I was so disappointed. So disappointed. And then we finally had our main event of the night, which was between MJF and Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond. Now this match was pretty great. I really enjoyed it. MJF was of course accompanied by the Inner Circle tonight, and Orange Cassidy did not come alone. He brought the best friends along for the ride. The match got off to a wonderful start. MJF had a clear strategy going into this and began targeting Cassidy's right hand because that's the hand that he uses to deliver his finisher, the Orange Punch. Now, when that really began was when early in the match, Orange Cassidy tried to punch MJF and MJF got out of the way and Cassidy ended up punching the turnbuckle, and then after that, it was just like ding, 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 ding. This is what we're gonna focus on. And for the rest of the match, he really destroyed his hand. At one point, they were on the outside of the ring, and MJF put Cassidy's hand in his back pocket. It kind of delivered like a power slam of sorts to the edge of the ring, right like on this part of his hand. And I was just like, oh, I couldn't help but wince. That looked so painful. And as the match progressed, things were getting more and more intense. Towards the end, Orange Cassidy kind of stepped in and got a little bit more strength. And that's when some of the shady shit started happening. So all of a sudden, we saw Chris Jericho throw his bat in the ring. And of course, MJF is going to play possum. And he tried to make it seem as though Orange Cassidy had hit him with a bat. But of course, Cassidy put his hands in his pockets. And at that moment, MJF got very pissed. He grabbed the bat and he looked like he was ready to fucking swing that bat right at Cassidy. And that's when the ref turned around and I thought, oh shit, it's over. He's gonna get DQ'd. He's not gonna be the Dynamite diamond ring holder. I was just like, ah! Freaking out. But luckily he didn't get disqualified and they just ended up tossing the bat outside of the ring. But the Inner Circle actually genuinely helped MJF. The Inner Circle helped MJF out a lot throughout the match, and they did not try to screw him over, not even once, which totally surprised me. I was expecting the opposite to happen. Now, as the more fuckery progressed and the more the Inner Circle helped MJF out, the best friends started joining in. However, the referee did not like that, and I thought that maybe the referee told the best friends to fuck off, but then I actually later found out then the best friends only went backstage just so they could grab more wrestlers and have more ammunition and kind of make it even between them and the Inner Circle. Now, towards the final moments of the match, it kind of looked like maybe MJF was gonna lose, and there was just a bunch of fuckery going on between the Inner Circle and the best friends and whatever fucking other wrestlers that they brought out. I believe the Varsity Blondes were there, and there might have been another tag team or two. I don't really remember. But just when it seemed that the tables were going to turn, Kip and Miro come out and they fuck up Orange Cassidy. The ref doesn't see it, and MJF ends up pinning Orange and retaining the diamond, which y'all know I was so happy about that. I really wanted MJF to win and retain the diamond, and he did, which was awesome. And that was this week's show in a nutshell. Even though we had a couple of interesting and exciting moments throughout the night, if I had to rate the show between terrible, meh, average, totally awesome, or legendary, it was just meh. A lot of uninteresting matches that nobody fucking cared about in too many segments. It felt like I was watching a clip show at one point, and I didn't really enjoy that. Yes, we did advance a few storylines through a lot of these vignettes and promos and whatever else, but it was not an interesting episode, and the main event was probably the best part. I would say the main event and the match between Butcher, Blade, and Eddie versus the Lucha Bros and the Murder Hawk Monster. I was highly disappointed in the fact that they decided to have Don Callis and Kenny Omega appear once again on Dynamite TV to explain what they explained the night before on Impact, and not only that, but completely contradict themselves and not have any continuity. So I was just mostly just annoyed. The only thing that saved it was the fact that we had a lot more MJF than we usually do on Dynamite. But what did you guys think of this week's episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? I would love to hear what you have to say. Did you enjoy my makeup look? Did a bitch do good? I would love to know all your opinions and thoughts down below. I'm really hoping that next week's Dynamite is more exciting and enjoyable because I hate being bored during one of my favorite days of the week, which is Wednesday. And the reason why it's my favorite day is because I get to watch Dynamite. Anyways, I love you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hope to see you soon. Bye!